Hello, my name is Courtney Shanti, and I am here to discuss some of the things that happen at my field agency. Um, my role of my instructor at my agency, it is important to know that the agency of my choice is a school. So some of the things that the social workers do within a school versus an agency that may be funded through the state may look different just because we are under the umbrella of the school. And even though we assist the students with outside problems and challenges as well as resources, it is also our job to support them academically, helping them stay on track. The role of my instructor at the school that I am doing my service at is to assess and evaluate students that may be brought to their attention through parents, teachers, administration, and things of that nature of their behavior in the classroom, their behaviors at home that may have been brought to the attention of the teacher, and now the teacher is letting the social worker know, or things of that nature. The students that the social workers see within the school are students that may be at risk. This could be students that may be facing homelessness. This could be students that may be in foster care, a ward of the state. This could be students that may have had a house fire just recently, just traumatic challenges that immediately need to be seen by a social worker, just as if it was someone else at another agency. Once we see crisis, we jump in immediately. Um, Other students that we service would be students that are struggling academically, where we would try to support them and see what they need, or what tests may be done to see if there is some type of delay or things of that nature. Or students that are simply struggling and may need some support to just get on that right learning path. Our conflict resolution policy, when going over this question with my instructor, it was kind of vague answers, just seeing as though she said that this is nothing that she's never had to go through or answer. So we initially referenced the NHA, the National Heritage Academy handbook that they would give employees, and we kind of went from there. Their conflict resolution policy is to initially, because it is a school and there are other administration within just that school hub, is to try to go to that person, whether it's a dean, whether if it's another teacher, and talk about your problem and just see, if it could be, if it's something that may, be something that could be quickly resolved. However, going to the higher up, um, the other people, other administration, they do require a 24-hour cooling off period for both parties before a claim is made. If it is a claim of such as like harassment, abuse, or anything like that, a written claim is to be submitted, and a 12-hour window is to be given by administration. The limitations of social workers within a school district can be challenging. And I say this just because working in a school, you pretty much have to follow the guidelines of the school, state mandates, especially educationally, education wise. However, when students are faced with traumatic situations, it is the job of the social worker to advocate for those state mandated tests to be extended to ensure that that child was given a fair chance. So, for instance, if a child is facing homelessness, they got placed somewhere else, but they were originally in our school district. Maybe they are moving or going to live with another family member, they need to transfer schools. Sometimes the social worker may need to step in and call that other school just to make sure that certain paperwork is done and that child is able to enroll immediately and not fall too far behind. Um, However, we are limited through funding. So when it's Christmas time and students need boots, students need clothes, we want to give students gifts. Most of the time that comes from our networking, our community outreach, and those things like that. Schools do set aside a limited budget for social workers to use for um, needs that maybe need to be met depending on the school that you service, what your students may need. Sometimes it's clothing, some like as of uniforms. Some schools require uniforms. So if some families cannot afford those, the social worker may be given a limited budget to be able to have a closet with uniforms for the families that they service and so forth of that nature. Um, However, the job of the social worker in the school is to network, is to get involved with the community so you know your students, you know their families, and when it is time or when there is a need, you can pull from those resources, and the funding that the school provide is always just a backup. Um, what else did I want to add? This community involvement also can provide other resources such as food banks, such as shelter. So when you do have those families that may be facing homelessness or need immediate things that you may not be able to provide personally as a social worker, you can refer them to your local food bank, to your local shelter, and you can say, hey, Miss Shanti sent me, and they know immediately who I am and the type of people or how to service them. So that is perk of working as a social worker in the school, as well as networking with the people in the community so that not only you know the students that you are serving and their parents, but you also know other community leaders and people that work and do the things that you do so that you all can join forces together and everybody can get what they need to be successful in the world, and the students can also be successful in the school, both behavior wise, mentally, and most importantly, academically. Resources and policies for self-care and my own personal self-care. At NHA, National Heritage Academy, excuse me, all employees are given 12, I mean, not 12, I apologize, 72 personal time off hours. These hours can be used however you would like. With these 72 hours, if you wake up and you just say, hey, today is not my day, mentally, I need to decompress and I need a day, you can use those hours and it will not count against you. That is your day off. So you have 72 of those hours. In addition to that, for Thanksgiving break, you have 3 days. For Christmas break, we get 2 weeks. For winter break, we have a week. And for spring break, we have another week as well. For social workers that work in the school, we do not work during the summer. You do not service any students and you do not work. However, you do still receive your salary paycheck from whichever school district you choose. Um, However, for me, as a social worker, a new social worker, and a social worker that wants to be effective in my school, my community, or whatever agency that I desire, for any off time that we have, it is important to always network, to always um, get out into the community, knowing the people, knowing what's happening, what things are available. So not only for the teachers that work in the school, but when you do encounter a family, a student, a group, a community that may be facing challenges or may face a need, you can jump right in, pointing them in the right direction because you have already done that networking footwork and you have met with local people who have gift cards for groceries, or you have met with local agency up the street that does backpacks in schools, supplies, or they give out coats and boots. So even during that downtime for not only the social workers at the school or wanting to work in the school, but even when you have those weeks or just downtime period, it's important to, network, get in there, get involved. Social media is very, big right now. So even when you scrolling, make the scrolling beneficial to what you do. Um, Personally, for me, for self-care, I love to listen to my ebooks, put my headphones in, just kind of blocking out that outside noise. I have a 10-year-old daughter, so I love to spend time with her, hanging out, doing fun things, watching her grow, and just listening to the thoughts that come to her mind and asking those questions is just mind-boggling to me. We always go on vacations and going to see the sun, Florida, Myrtle Beach. I love to do those things. So when I have my breaks and my downtime, I make sure that I plan ahead and I have those things on my schedule. But things that are free for my downtime, I love to take a quiet bath. I love to sit on my couch and watch murder mysteries, even though that may be crazy. Like, why does somebody want to watch that? I don't know. It's interesting. I like to do it. And when I take a day off, even if my daughter is not off of school, I make sure I reset. I take the time to be quiet. I turn off the TV. Sometimes I just play quiet music. I sit on my couch and I just relax. Because as a social worker, we know that we are always listening and assisting people with challenges that we may not even have faced before. So it is hard to listen to things sometime and not question how did they do this or how did they get through this? And even though that you may not have the opportunity to ask them that question, you may ask yourself. And sometimes I don't want to ask myself. I don't want to go through those situations. So to eliminate that, I block out that noise and I ground myself, center myself, and I ensure that I am in the moment. Thank you for listening.